The Beatles changed music forever, not just with their songwriting but with their innovative studio work. As a longtime fan and someone who has spent years in recording rooms, I still get chills thinking about how they turned the studio into an instrument, a place where curiosity and technical daring produced sounds no one had heard before. This isn't just nostalgia. It's an appreciation of how creative risk and collaboration can reinvent what music can be. From the early days at Abbey Road, it was clear the band wasn't content to reproduce live performances on tape. With George Martin and engineers like Geoff Emerick, they began to explore the studio's possibilities, layering tracks, changing tape speeds, splicing pieces of tape together to build new textures, and using microphones and equipment in unorthodox ways. Those experiments weren't gimmicks. They were deliberate attempts to find new emotional colors and structural ideas that couldn't be achieved on stage. Listen to Tomorrow Never Knows. It sounds like a portal to another world, and that's deliberate. Tape loops pulse beneath Lennon's vocals, which were fed through a Leslie speaker to give them an otherworldly wobble. The drum sound is processed, compressed, and placed in a mix that favors atmosphere over realism. Or take Strawberry Fields Forever. Two different takes with different tempos and keys were literally spliced together, a technical risk that created a haunting, dreamlike transition that still feels miraculous. These were not happy accidents. They were intentional acts of sonic imagination. Their willingness to borrow from other traditions and technologies was also key. The use of the sitar and Indian rhythmic ideas opened Western pop to new timbral possibilities. The mellotron introduced orchestral textures without an orchestra. Phil Spector's wall of sound techniques on I Want to Hold Your Hand, and later the orchestral grandeur on A Day in the Life and SGT. Pepper brought a sense of scale that expanded pop's emotional range. But the Beatles didn't simply adopt techniques, they adapted them, often stripping them down or twisting them into something uniquely theirs. What really stands out is how collaborative and experimental the process was. George Martin's classical sensibilities met Lennon and McCartney's pop instincts and Harrison's exploratory spirit. Engineers like Geoff Emerick were encouraged to move microphones, break the rules, and report back with something unexpected. That culture of trust and curiosity turned mistakes into features and limitations into creative prompts. They treated every piece of equipment as a potential instrument: tape machines, echo chambers, tape loops, guitars run through speakers, vocalists placed in stairwells, all tools to shape a mood or convey a moment. The Beatles also changed how songs were written and arranged for the studio. They no longer wrote songs with the intent of them being played live. Many ideas were conceived specifically for the record. This shift allowed more complex arrangements, orchestral interludes, and production flourishes that couldn't be replicated on stage. The record itself became the final form of the song, a crafted listening experience, not just a document of performance. That mindset paved the way for later generations of artists who see the album or single as a medium for storytelling and sonic exploration. Their influence is everywhere now. From bedroom producers who use tape emulating plugins to major artists who think of the studio as a compositional space. The lineage is direct. The techniques have become more accessible, but the underlying ethos remains: experiment, fail fast, and listen closely. The Beatles showed that pushing against technical and stylistic boundaries could yield art that resonates across decades. For me, as both a fan and a practitioner, the lesson is simple: don't be afraid to use the studio to imagine sounds that don't yet exist. Treat limitations as prompts, let collaboration push your assumptions. And remember that technology is a palette, not a set of rules. The Beatles weren't just a band. They were pioneers who taught us that the act of recording can be an act of invention. Thanks for listening. Whether you're an aspiring producer, a devoted fan, or just curious about how records are made, there's always something to learn from the way the Beatles turned experimentation into enduring music.